So we're all set for England's first match of this 1986 World Cup, and your match commentator is John Motson.
So in this unusual but majestic setting, we're now within a few seconds of the end of a long wait. England are ready after 4 years. They've been away from home for 4 weeks. And as they pose for the team photo, this England side come into the World Cup unbeaten in their last 11 matches, 6 straight wins, and against a Portuguese team whose own build-up has been, to say the least, a stuttering one. Their side, though, is based again on the 3 fashionable clubs, Benfica, Porto and Sporting Lisbon, who provide 10 of the starting lineup. They'll play with a 5-man midfield, which the Portuguese used in the European Championships in 1984, and which basically earned them a draw in the opening match there against West Germany. Some of the names will be familiar, others you'll get used to when we start the match, because they're known mostly by a shorter and more popular name than the full family name that you saw there. Brian Robson, to everybody's relief, down there on the pitch with Bento, the erratic but experienced Portuguese captain and goalkeeper, nearly 38 years of age and playing his 63rd international today. Brian Robson is playing his 52nd, and the referee there, Volker Ruth of West Germany. Now England. The 11 players who Bobby Robson has selected, as he said this morning, have never played together as a team before. But it's a side that's been taking shape in his mind over the last 2 years. It includes 2 men with over 80 caps and 2 others with over 50. So there's no shortage of international experience, and he perseveres with the winger. Resisting temptation to switch back to 4-4-2, we have Chris Waddle playing as the wide or free forward. Volker Ruth, by the way, took charge of the last match in which England were beaten. That was away to Mexico in an international in the Azteca Stadium a year ago, and we haven't lost since. The England supporters number, I would imagine, between 2,000 and 3,000, but if you were to take them out of this stadium, there are not many people here. There are banks of empty seats behind me, and indeed on the far side in the shadow of the Sierra Madre Mountains, which makes this such an imposing arena here in Monterrey. There are a few of the Portuguese who've come, but by and large I would say the stadium is half empty for this match in Group F. Jimmy Hill has now joined me in the commentary position.
If you're an optimist, John, I was thinking you would also say it was half full. There's a lot. They were marvellous, actually, the British fans there. They applauded the Portuguese national anthem and then sang their own. And not quite in time. It's too much to ask, because they're too far away from the speakers and you get the echo. But it was a good start in that way.
Well, let's hope England can get off to a good start, as we did in Spain 4 years ago. England won their opening match, indeed, also in Mexico in 1970. So there's a little bit of tradition here. And our record against Portugal, as you get an idea of where the pictures are going to come from behind the goal, the record against Portugal is very good. England have played them 14 times since the war, in fact. England winning 8, 5 draws, and only 1 victory for Portugal over England back in 1955. And when you consider also that Portugal themselves haven't played a full international since February, then I think you have to agree that England's build-up, certainly on the surface, would appear to have been far more settled and significant. But we shall wait and see what happens in a group where already, as you know, Poland and Morocco have drawn 0-0. So the winners here would go top of the group, and the winners of the group would stay in Monterrey for the second round. So away we go. England's challenge for the 1986 World Cup is at last underway. Here's Terry Butcher. On the far side, the number 5 is playing right back for Portugal. That's Alvaro. Brian Robson. And England quickly into their stride with Waddle, and a clearance by Oliveira. Robson into the tackle. Whistle goes against him. Robson will be keen to just make sure his man is all right, because the England players have been encouraged to be on their very best behaviour. There's been talk of shirts staying tucked in and socks being pulled up, which I must say is quite a demanding thing to say to players in this heat and humidity. There's Terry Butcher. Sanson. Waddle has started over on the left wing. The two front men, Lineker, who's wearing on his wrist a simple strapping, which Fred Street applied before the game, and his partner Hately, of course. 17 there is Diamantino, well known from European Cup exploits with Benfica, and he's on the run now. Carlos Manuel, number 6, is dangerous. Tries to find Diamantino again, Butcher having to get there, and the ball rolls out for a goal kick. 5 players from Benfica, 3 from Porto, 2 from Sporting Lisbon, and the exception is the tall centre-back Frederico, who's marking Hately. He comes from the less fashionable club Boa Vista. Here's Ray Wilkins playing his 81st international, one behind Shilton. Looks for Hately. Oliveira came across. Throw-in to be taken by Gary Stevens. And Bento comes to meet Brian Robson. And the free kick is given against the England captain. And Bento goes down fairly dramatically.
Well, a fuss right at the start there. I suppose the best thing one can say about it from England's point of view, that Brian Robson covered about 25 yards there, as fast as he's ever covered in his life, and went for the ball, but there's no doubt about it, it was painful from the goalkeeper's point of view. I don't suppose Portuguese players ever in the league come at a goalkeeper at such speed from such a deep position, which was why it probably frightened the life out of him, but I don't think he's seriously injured.
Just thinking back to Bilbao, Jimmy, and when England started their last World Cup challenge against France, Brian got into the penalty area, then went, what, 27 seconds and scored?
He did, from a throw-in on the right, which was most enjoyable. We haven't quite made that today. We've started off with our basic English game, long balls, hoping to win the challenge up there, somebody pick it up and then play the football. And the Portuguese, I think at the start, are content to try and contain that early 20 minutes of England. Maybe they've been watching our television and aware of what's going on.
I was saying earlier on that Bento, the keeper there, is nearly 38 years old. It's no good expecting a younger man to take over. The substitute goalkeeper's even older, you know.
You can be nearly as old as a goalkeeper as you can as a commentator, John.
Well, anyway, he's recovered, and the Portuguese will be relieved about that because he is their captain. And doubtless he'll leave this kick to the tall defender, Oliveira. They're looking for Gomes there, the number 9. This is Gary Stevens of Everton. The Tottenham Gary Stevens, incidentally, is among the 5 England subs, along with Beardsley, Barnes, Hodge and Chris Woods, the keeper. Butcher looks for Lineker. Frederico was in front of him. That's Carlos Manuel, number 6. Kenny Sansom. Wilkins was the man who found Gary Stevens, and he's looking for Lineker. Handball. You can see Lineker's strapping there. It's not exactly a plaster cast this time. Fred Street has applied a strapping and didn't even have to clear it with the referee, I gather, this time. Gomes, Terry Fenwick, Bobby Robson. Here's Sousa for Portugal, and Sansom coming across. Bobby Robson must have known what his side was going to be before the World Cup. If you look at the England numbers, they're 1 to 11 with just one exception. Terry Fenwick is wearing 14. He's eased out Alvin Martin for the time being, who was numbered 5. Here's Butcher, number 6. That's Fenwick. Aiming at Hately. This is Diamantino. Number 3 is Sousa. And then number 20, also wearing a strapping actually on his wrist, is Inácio. Comes from the champions Porto. This is Jaime Pacheco, number 7. Gomes. We've heard a fair amount about Gomes, Jimmy, and his pedigree as a goal scorer, number 9 there.
Yes, he will certainly need to be watched, but there have just been a couple of occasions where they've taken on men individually. He just whipped past Sousa there, whipped past Brian Robson as if he wasn't there, but the rest of them covered up at the back. But there's no doubt they like to beat men, and I'd like to see someone in the England team do the same thing.
Robson has found Waddle. Hadley and Lineker are waiting in the centre for a cross, and the clearance was by Federico. And a foul given against Ray Wilkins. Federico swinging the ball wide. This is Inácio, number 20, left back. Portugal cluster in midfield. They play 5 men there essentially, and just Gomes up front, but Carlos Manuel on the ball now will support him whenever he can. Diamantino is in there, but that's the nice easy catch that Peter Shilton would have been looking for. Called into action for the first time. He's found Chris Waddle. Andre, the 21, is over on that side, defending for Portugal. This is Gary Stevens attacking for England. Number 4, Glenn Hoddle. And now a switch by Waddle. So you'll see Waddle drifting first on one wing and then to the other. Stevens. Jaime Pacheco, number 7, one of the most popular players in Portugal. 21, Andre. Pacheco. Carlos Manuel makes the forward run. Butcher cuts him off. The England fans are packed away to our left in the semicircle behind that goal, which England are defending in the first half. Here's Wilkins. Hoddle. Lineker started a through run, but he had to check. You wouldn't believe it was pouring with rain most of yesterday, and indeed first thing this morning. But now bright sunshine, intense heat. Glenn Hoddle skipping past 2 players, but not the third, Pacheco. It was real English weather when we drove down from the England camp at Saltillo this morning. Drive of about 1 hour through the mountains. Quite striking, the scenery around here. This is Andre. Diamantino. Inácio. Sousa. Carlos Manuel. This is Alvaro. Pacheco. Sousa. Gomes trying to find some space, but it's back with Alvaro again. And England just held their ground there and forced the Portuguese to go into a cul-de-sac. Ten minutes gone in this opening match for England in the World Cup. And no score. Pacheco for Portugal. Sousa. Gomes. Swung very wide, and Kenny Sansom had to be quick, which he was. Sansom unchallenged as England's left back. He's playing his 66th international, hasn't missed a game for 2 years. Looking for Hadley. And Lineker's following up here for England. And Lineker goes down, what, 2 yards, 3 yards outside the area. Referee Rurt gives the free kick. It was Federico that challenged him. Now, I wonder what England have got in mind here. Terry Fenwick and Glenn Hoddle have moved towards the ball. Just wonder what Glenn Hoddle could contrive. And Fenwick.
Most of the free kicks I've seen in this World Cup so far, nobody's beaten the block. In fact, they've hit it. Two have got it through the block where they've got out of the way, but that was the first one that avoided the block that was too high. We haven't seen yet the spectacular curling balls into the top corner that we're all looking forward to, but that would have been too much to hope, I suppose, at this stage of the game. It's noticeable, John, that whatever England and their manager intended, football in the sun is not a quick step, is it? It's a foxtrot. When you're playing international footballers and they get possession, you can't just harry them around and make a pace that they don't want to make. So both teams make the pace in the game, not one.
Absolutely, it's sweltering up here in the commentary position. Goodness knows what it's like down there. This is Gary Stevens of Everton. Not very accurate. That's Pacheco who intercepted Carlos Manuel. Diamantino. Carlos Manuel, Diamantino. Pacheco. Sousa. Gomes is coming short. That's back again to Sousa, and rather nicely done, and it was just too high for Gomes. Chris Waddle was the player that cleared it. That was good play by Sousa, the number 3. Plays for Sporting Lisbon. Here's Wilkins of AC Milan. Chris Waddle. Lineker. Hoddle. Robson's well forward in the inside left position, far side of the box. Waddle. Stevens. Now we've got Lineker, Haitley and Robson in the middle. And a good flying header by Alvaro, actually. Waddle. Stevens again. Oh, and then Robson came in behind Haitley and went close. That was typical Brian Robson in the position he took up and the way he came in. Gary Stevens got a couple of very good crosses in there, but here's Gomes for Portugal, and Diamantino is off through the centre. Number 17, and Shilton comes to collect.
Not only collected it there, John, but managed not to get outside the area at the same time. His mind works like lightning in that position. There's not an aspect of goalkeeping that he hasn't got covered.
Just talking to Peter Shilton yesterday at the England Hotel, and he was emphasising just what a happy ship this has been in the month they've been away. One of the most contented and best-spirited England parties that he's been in, and he goes back a few years. Here's Haitley. Diamantino. Carlos Manuel. Jaime Pacheco. Carlos Manuel. Play on, says the German referee. And Shilton looks for an early kick to find Haitley or Lineker. Wilkins is following up here. Sousa. Alvaro. Diamantino. Andre. Oh, and Butcher catching Carlos Manuel. 15 minutes gone and a free kick to the Portuguese. And I'm just waiting to see if Federico goes up for this, the tall centre-back. He's not going to bother. In this heat, it would take some getting back, I would imagine, for a defender to risk too much. So Carlos Manuel, the man whose spectacular shot qualified Portugal for these championships, has placed the ball and is taking an almighty run up to it. And he fires it across the face of the goal.
He's an optimist, if ever there was one, expecting to beat Shorten from that distance, especially at only 1,500 feet. If it was 7,500, I think he might have a chance, but not from there.
Carlos Manuel plays for John Mortimer's club, Benfica, and he scored the goal in Stuttgart. A spectacular shot that was too, past Schumacher, which actually gave Portugal victory and qualification. Here's Brian Robson. And Stevens. Hately. Sozar. And was Terry Fenwick coming through with the tackle and getting the yellow card. Fenwick has been booked.
I was just thinking what a good referee we got here, the German, because he didn't necessarily blow his whistle when players fell down. Both ways, he's done it for both sides and been perfectly fair. That was a tackle from behind, but it was a tackle on the ball. It wasn't a kick from behind, which is an offence in my book. It was strong, no question about it. But on the other hand, there it is. He's actually got the ball on the end of his foot. And I don't see why players should get a name take when they go for the ball. Otherwise, what's the purpose of trying to play the ball in the game, John?
Well, it was Gomes who was on the receiving end of it. It's an awkward one for Fenwick now, because not only would he get sent off if he was to commit another bookable offence in this match, but if he was to get the yellow card in a second game, or any other game, he would then miss England's next match on. So an early booking can put a player under a certain amount of stress, especially when he's having to mark Gomes, which he is at the moment again. In fact, Fenwick won that well. Hoddle. Oh, goodness me. This is Sozar. And Brian Robson. On to Kenny Sansom. England moving out at a gentle pace. Essential that they conserve some energy in this atmosphere, this heat. Wilkins. That's a really good driven ball by Ray Wilkins to Waddle. We've got three waiting in the centre. Here's Stevens. And in goes Lineker. Robson's there as well. And a free kick to Portugal. Gary Stevens, Jimmy, is getting down the right-hand side and putting in some useful service.
Yes, one wondered about his confidence in recent weeks, but he's come back, he's trying so hard, you can almost feel him trying to make sure that he puts in a purposeful ball and doesn't waste a chance. That's 3 good crosses out of 3 so far, and it's very encouraging.
There was a feeling that he was under a little bit of strain from the challenge of Viv Anderson, but he's held him off. Here's Kenny Sansom, the other fullback. Butcher. Lineker, Robson. Federico got a foot in. Hately. Sansom. Butcher. Hoddle is well forward here. Further still is Lineker. That's Federico. And are England going to get a chance here to try a corner? No. Wilkins. Robson. Butcher. And Glenn Hoddle still very well forward. Just coming up to 20 minutes gone, and no score here in the Tecnologico Stadium in Monterrey, the smaller of the 2 stadiums being used in this city for the World Cup, but home of the Mexican League champions. That came off Sansom. That was Butcher. Andre. Diamantino. That's another tackle from behind. This time Carlos Manuel on the receiving end from Terry Butcher. Free kick to Portugal. Now Carlos Manuel has again placed the ball. And Sozar's gone across as well this time. Now is Carlos Manuel going to try again from this distance? He must be 30 yards. No, Sozar did. Oh, a little skipping bounce there, which didn't can't seem to trouble Shilton. So it's clear the Portuguese have taken this advice about long-range shooting to heart here in Mexico. Here's Robson waving Stevens further on so that Waddle can pick up here. We're conscious of how many people have stayed up late to watch this first match of England's in the 1986 World Cup back at home, and I can report that with 21 minutes gone, there's really very little to choose between the two sides. This is Diamantino, Andre, Pacheco. Now, can Hoddle release one of the strikers here, I wonder? It might be Lineker. It is. Hateley's free in the centre. Can he find him? Robson's also following up. There was just a second there, Jimmy, when Mark Hateley was free.
Yes, it would have needed a speculative ball, but it would have been worth a try because chances are so few and far between, aren't they?
Here's Wilkins. Here's Sansom. 4 waiting in the centre for England. Still Sansom. Just took on perhaps one man too many there, but this is Diamantino. Jaime Pacheco, number 7. Brian Robson, our number 7. Wilkins. And Chris Waddle couldn't keep it in. I must say, Portugal have started this match exactly the way they started that opening game in France 2 years ago against West Germany in the European Championship finals, when they played very carefully with a 5-man midfield. And on that occasion, they finished up with a very useful 0-0 draw and went on, you may recall, to the semi-finals where they had that amazing game against France. Hoddle forward for Lineker. Support coming in here from Waddle. Hateley's in the centre. Still Waddle. That's aimed at Hateley, and Bento came to punch clear. Carlos Manuel. Back heel to Diamantino. This is Wilkins. And again, Gary Stevens able to receive the ball in space. Waddle on the right. Still Waddle, now Lineker. Robson's again begun to go forward to support Hateley. Didn't come through to him. Gomes. Sousa. Diamantino. Pacheco, number 7, but that's Wilkins. There's Hoddle. Wilkins. Robson. Waddle. Trip was by Sousa. Free kick to England. Now Terry Butcher has made his way forward here as a tall aid to Hateley. Hateley and Butcher waiting to come in from the far side, and so is Robson. Oh, when it came to Hateley, possibly got a touch on somebody else in the way that it surprised him a bit.
I think it was Brian Robson who got the touch on, in there as always, in the area, and unfortunately it came to Hateley's right foot, and he rather got them tied together, I thought, at that moment. He was really off balance. He wasn't nicely balanced. It was a good chance. They're not as easy as they look, mind you, but it was still a good chance to get the ball into the net from that position. Well carved out. Referee having a word with him there for time wasting. We must have everything meticulously placed.
It's interesting that about the time, isn't it, Jimmy? We were saying that FIFA have obviously told the referees not to add on unnecessary stoppage time, because every match we've been at so far or watched on the television, the whistle's gone right on the 45 minutes, irrespective of whether there have been any injuries in the game.
We can announce that so far in the World Cup there is no such thing as injury time.
Well, I know that referees are under fairly close scrutiny from FIFA on a number of issues which they've laid down before the tournament started. The world body are very conscious about the image of the game in the current climate. That was Sousa. This is Terry Fenwick. And Stevens. Lineker. And Hoddle. And Waddle. And Hoddle again, curling a bit. "27 minutes gone in the first half here in Monterrey. England 0, Portugal 0 in England's opening match in the 1986 World Cup finals. Terry Butcher. Lineker looking for the through ball here, offside. Portugal not one of the European teams that play with an out-and-out sweeper, Jimmy.
No, they play, well, three at the back. The two men sort of seem idle. Lineker and Haitley are really outnumbered there when we play these long balls up to them. And awful lot really rests on Brian Robson to get up there and link with them, because Ben Huddle did go on one through run, but he doesn't go on all that many, and Butch Wilkins just stays in front of the back four. So either Waddle's going to dribble through, but he's not necessarily there to go up and support. So it leaves an awful lot on the shoulders of those front two, like that.
Yes, that was Haitley getting a knock in the back from the number 5, Alvaro, who's playing essentially at right back for Portugal. Giving England a free kick. This is Wilkins. Hoddle has made a forward run here, leaving space further back for Gary Stevens. There was Hoddle, in fact, but Sousa is going to allow that to run. Whenever England play Portugal, one's mind goes back to that meeting in the 1966 World Cup finals, which is so well documented, the semi-final. It was the only time, by the way, 1966, that Portugal have been in the World Cup finals before this year. And they finished third. And the manager, Torres, had the distinction of scoring the goal that won them the third-place match at Wembley. Here's Sansom for England. Butcher finds Wilkins from the throw. Now Haitley trying to stay onside here. And he may have managed it, actually, but he did, in fact, foul his opponent in the referee's opinion. So Portugal have taken a quick free kick, and this is Carlos Manuel. Stevens in quickly on Gomes. Inacio. Just an athletic poise there, shown by Gary Stevens. His recovery rate, one of the features of his game. Here's Carlos Manuel against Terry Fenwick. Gomes is in the centre. There's follow-up here from Sousa. Still Manuel, but they only had one man in the box and never looked like playing him. Just coming up to the half hour, and the score is 0-0. This is Wilkins. Fenwick. This is Sousa. That's nicely opened up. Andre. Alvaro's up on the right wing. Pacheco. Diamantino. And still.
I just noticed how hard I was gripping the microphone there, and it's not really through the tension of broadcasting, it just is through the tension of this game. England's first game, one tiny mistake, you know, can give you a bit of a mountain, not quite as big as the one that towers above us, but in this heat, you get a goal down, it's not easy to peg it back, and whatever intentions they had before, I think we're getting the same kind of game that we had in Monterrey yesterday at this time of the afternoon.
This is Haitley. Lineker's in the centre. Federico cleared it. Had a shot a moment ago of Bobby Robson down on the bench. He seems to have been waiting forever for this World Cup to start. He was saying this morning, well, it's certainly underway now from England's point of view. We have a throw, and Butcher with his flick-ons here could be dangerous. Kenny Sansom. And that was Butcher, but it dropped for Alvaro.
Interesting, that chap jumping up and down at the throw-in there, John. He's not really committing an offence unless the referee chose to call it ungentlemanly conduct, because you are entitled to... Oh, there he goes. Lineker's away.
Lineker with Haitley in the centre. Good ball by Hoddle. Still Lineker. Waddle is following up. Hoddle's made his way into the penalty area far side. Header out by Federico. Now Sozar. Yes, that was a Glenn Hoddle special from the middle of the field, trying to release Lineker. Sort of passing that we'll be looking for. Here's Carlos Manuel. Number 9, Gomes. Away from Gary Stevens. Carlos Manuel has gone through the centre, number 6. And it's still Carlos Manuel, fouled by Brian Robson. I always felt that the Carlos Manuel, Brian Robson comparison would be interesting in this match. They are in some ways similar players. Driving through the centre of midfield. And the one there checked the other, and Peter Shilton is checking to make sure the wall is in the right place. Sozar is standing close to the ball. And that was Sozar, but it's over the top, and Peter Shilton came up his line there to remonstrate with his defenders, Jimmy, as though he wasn't at all happy about the way they lined up.
He loves that. That keeps him alive, that kind of moaning, I think. There was nothing wrong, I think, with the block. They stood firm, they covered the other half of the goal, and the ball went over the top and over the top of the crossbar, thank goodness.
Well, the England fans making themselves heard in this open stadium. It's a beautiful setting, and what you can't see is the rather attractive hedges away to our right where the players come out. Might get a glimpse in a moment or two behind that goal. Well, there's Torres with the moustache, the towering centre-forward who you'll all recall, or many of you will, from '66. He was the man who used to head them down for Eusebio to crack them in that World Cup in England. This is Wilkins, been playing for 35 minutes, no score. Chris Waddle for England. Gomes. Jaime Pacheco. Gomes is pulling away in the inside right channel at the moment. This is Carlos Manuel, Gomes, and Carlos Manuel. He really is an energetic player.
I think you notice the difference there, the way in which the Portuguese are attacking. When they get a thrust like that, they keep going faster and faster. They accelerated until the shot. It was only the shot that spoiled it at the end. And notice at the other end, when Lineker particularly has been on the end of through balls, he's tried to sort of hold it up and not make a mistake and lose it. I think he's got to take a chance in those situations. While the space is there isn't much of it. Go faster and hope to succeed.
Well, he's making a run now through the inside left position. Kenny Sansom is on the ball, and here's Ray Wilkins. Robson. And Robson looks for Lineker. They're appealing for handball, and it's been given. England will be very pleased if they can get a winning lead while Brian Robson is on the pitch, because there's still a feeling that they may want to conserve him because of the well-documented injury saga. If they were in a good lead, perhaps even take him off, or maybe rest him from the Morocco game. We shall see. That's Fennick. But they need him while the situation is as it is. And they will hopefully need him much later in the tournament if all goes well. It's very much a similar situation to what Brazil are doing with Zico. I was at the first game against Spain up in Guadalajara. Fantastic atmosphere there. And the Brazilians are saying they're not going to use Zico until they're forced into it, hoping that they can get through to perhaps the last 16 before he has to come off the bench, and then maybe he'll be getting over his injury. Here's Wilkins. Here's Waddle. It really is most exciting to be in this atmosphere in Mexico. The World Cup has just dominated the whole country in terms of newspapers and television. All the matches being shown locally, and many programs to add to that in the way of highlights and previews. Whatever has been said about the wisdom of playing in Mexico, you can't argue about their passion for football here. Ray Wilkins to Glenn Hoddle. Robson has pushed up with the strikers. Checked a bit now. And Lineker's got free, but he is offside. Well, there's the first time the ball's gone in the net for England, but unfortunately play had been stopped.
Just a word about Brian Robson. I'm most encouraged. I'm superstitious too, so I don't want to say too much, but he's enjoying himself out there today. There's no question about it. He's playing a captain's role. He's full of energy so far. No reason to think about pulling him off, and fingers crossed that injury hasn't recurred or doesn't look like recurring. But it's a different Brian Robson from the one we've seen in the last couple of matches, I think. I think he's grown in the last couple of days and made up his mind. Either he's going to do it today or go back home and get this thing seen to.
Inácio for Portugal. We've got just about 7 minutes left in the first half here in Monterrey. England 0, Portugal 0. Federico. Alvaro. Now then, Sozar was in a good position there, and he just lobbed the ball away from Terry Butcher. He's got Diamantino going up on the right, Gomes in the centre, Gary Stevens winning the header, Pacheco finding Inácio, and Kenny Sansom will have to jump here with Diamantino. This is Sozar, and that's come off Sansom for a corner for Portugal. And again, I'm just looking for Federico to decide whether he's going to go up or not. And the minute he did decide to trot forward, Paisley trotted back with him as a marker. Now, this means that when the ball is finally given to Carlos Manuel to take the corner, Portugal are going to have 3 players in the penalty area only. Gomes, Federico and Diamantino. Well, they may as well all go back again now.
I was just beginning to look round and see which players in the England side were under some sort of physical stress, and those that were standing up to it well. Gary Stevens looks as if he could run all day at right back. Back 4 defenders seem okay. Glenn Hoddle, doesn't seem to have that much energy, and neither does Butch Wilkins. They're doing their job, but they're not, don't seem to be full of running. And Chris Waddle, having had a few dribbles, has just eased himself out of the game. So, it's be interesting to see how many players 20 minutes from the end are still capable of making the runs necessary to hold the Portuguese and build up a move to beat them.
Wilkins looking for Waddle. Quite a few of the players were looking forward to the hot towels, which or rather the cold towels, which have been prepared in the dressing room to sort of combat the heat at half-time. The physiotherapist Fred Street was telling me this morning that because the players are going to be so hot, they've arranged for some special treatment to cool them down when they go off. Here's Wilkins. Sansom. Waddle. Sansom. Waddle again. That's an England throw. Now Terry Butcher will again drift into the penalty area here. He's looking for the possibility of flicking on one of these long throws from Sansom in the hope that Brian Robson in particular, or maybe Lineker, can snatch a goal on the second touch. But two came with him. Wilkins. Hoddle. Offside, but it was a nice idea from Glenn Hoddle.
And indeed, Ray Wilkins was on a run into his opponent's penalty area there, but I don't think it was particularly the central players that were offside. I think it was one on the flank. See, the Saddle Mountain has got its cloud back, John, so we only had the one chance of seeing it early on. It's the only time in a week.
Yes, I've never seen quite such an awesome sight towering above a football ground as that particular mountain there, but it's difficult perhaps for you to appreciate it at home, because obviously the camera for the most part will stay on the pitch, which is where Lineker's trying to get through now. But the drive from the England headquarters down here really is a memorable one.
I mention that because it's bringing with it just a little bit of cooling breeze, which wouldn't do anybody any harm at the moment.
No, it's most welcome. This is Gary Stevens to Glenn Hoddle. A couple of minutes left in the first half. Haitley and Lineker waiting on the far side. That was Haitley. Lineker's in there, and is Robson there? Not quite, Lineker might be. And somehow Federico and the goalkeeper scrambled the ball away. Didn't quite break for England, but it could have done for Robson or Lineker. That was Haitley winning it in the air, which caused the scramble.
What a pity that was. It was so near, and once again Brian Robson, the England captain, was right there in the box at the death, and that takes some running to do that. People who are saying he's not reached his previous standards of fitness, there's no question about it that he's come on enormously in the last week to 10 days.
Wilkins on the ball now. This is Hoddle, and now it's Robson, and they let Waddle go a bit there, the Portuguese, but he couldn't make it. Sousa. A minute left in the first half. Alvaro for Portugal. Gianni Pacheco, good tackle by Terry Butcher, but the ball only going back to Alvaro. Pacheco again. Carlos Manuel looking for Sousa, and look at that from Brian Robson. You really can't tell him to play any other way but wholeheartedly, can you? Two of the England supporters in the background there, with their Union Jacks, denoting which particular part of the country they come from. Coming up to half-time here, a matter of 15 seconds of normal time remaining. First half in which there haven't been very many scoring chances. That scramble a minute ago, perhaps the best one, actually. Here comes Terry Fenwick. Stevens. Wilkins. Lineker did well. Hoddle. Looking for Haitley. And Bento's committed himself. Now then, can they get the ball in the box? Haitley. Oh, it wasn't the best of efforts from Haitley, but Bento was able to make a mistake and not be punished right on half-time. So, 0-0, Jimmy, but England had a couple of chances towards the end of the half.